Greetings, I come in peace. I could have come in hologram, but that was so last elections. I'm Tony Velasquez. On this program, you and I will explore the innovations and advances that technology can contribute to improving the Filipino way of life. We'll upload information and ideas on the hardware and software that will make you aware of new directions that can lead to better ways of doing things. There's no time like the present to think about a future perfect. The U.S. presidential elections in the year 2000 offers a terrific opportunity to examine and learn the pros and cons of the automated election process. It was one of the closest races in the nation's history, with less than 205,000 votes separating then Texas Governor George W. Bush and Vice President Al Gore. The two camps expressed concerns of possible widespread inaccuracies, much like the Filipinos' first crack at automating the Philippine polls.
The 2000 U.S. presidential elections between then Texas Governor George W. Bush and former U.S. Vice President Al Gore was the closest election in more than a century. In that contest, Bush won, and then Gore won, and then Bush won again, and it all got pretty confusing. See, on November 7th, 10 minutes before the polls closed, some networks declared that Gore had carried Florida's 25 electoral votes. But this was purely based on exit polls. Then, after a few hours, the networks retracted and placed Florida back in the undecided column. Even Gore, who had privately conceded the election to Bush, withdrew his concession.
25 electoral votes. NBC News projects that George Bush, it's been a night of first giving it to Al Gore, then taking it away on the part of the networks. George Walker Bush, the new president of the United States, the governor of Texas.
But most of the remaining votes to be counted in the Sunshine State were located in 3 heavily Democratic areas. In other words, Gore counties. So again, networks retracted.
We are projecting that when all the votes are counted, the state of Florida will go tonight to the vice president, Mr. Gore. So we have a change in our call. Florida is now too close to call.
We don't just have egg in our face, we've got omelet all over our suits.
On a night when accuracy is crucial, the news media got it wrong.
The close, never mind confusing race triggered a recount in contested areas under state law. At the time, several counties used high-tech machines for the first time, such as touch screens, though most places still relied on punch card or paper ballots.
We are going to win Florida. Mark my words. You can write it down.
Many Americans heard the term hanging chad for the first time, a reference to the small piece of paper punched out of punch card ballots. Tabulating machines failed to count some ballots with incompletely punched holes. Though by the indentation, the intent of the voter seemed to be clear. Now think about the rules of the Philippine automated election system for null votes. Incompletely filled circles, a circle you didn't fill at all, or too many shaded circles needed for a post. Gore and Bush lawyers also questioned the unexpectedly large vote for the third-party candidates. This led to questions on the design of the so-called butterfly ballot, which has names down both sides with a single column of punch holes in the center, much like the controversy hounding the reconfigured cards that's supposed to read double-spaced entries.
It's not about Gore or Bush, really, when it comes down to it. It comes down to whether presidency retains the legitimacy that it needs to retain.
Due to the narrow margin, Florida state law mandated a statewide recount. Gore also demanded manual recounts in 4 counties where there were the greatest number of disputed ballots.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes.
How do you know that to be the case?
Because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype.
After suits and countersuits, this case was brought to the Florida Supreme Court, which ordered the recount to proceed. But the U.S. Supreme Court had the final say on the matter, ruling 5-4 that the statewide recount was unconstitutional.
For the sake of our unity as the people and the strength of our democracy, I offer my concession. I also accept my responsibility, which I will discharge unconditionally.
Secretary Cheney and I are honored and humbled to have won the state of Florida, which gives us the needed electoral votes to win the election.
Bush finally got his victory, and the rest, as they say, is history.
George Walker Bush solemnly swear.
Violence, fraud, and human error, they've usually been part of the exercise of previous Philippine manual elections. Since the mid-90s, the proposed remedy to all of these was an automated system of voting. Automated voting machines were expected to not only speed up the count, but supposedly lessen the opportunities for fraud. After 13 years of unsuccessful attempts, the government finally put in place an automated election system. But while it did considerably speed up the 2010 national elections, it still raised intriguing and perhaps worrisome concerns about the security and reliability of the automated election technology.